Everybody. Like Deidre, I love this event. It's awesome. I love this community and getting everybody together. Those who don't know me, my name is Dave Schaefer, and I work in DevOps in Trust and Identity, Internet 2. And I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm here by way of, from Iowa originally, by way of Denver, Colorado. I was there for a couple of years, but otherwise spent most of my career in Eastern Iowa at the University of Iowa, a couple other places. So hello to Derek, and also I see Heidi from Grinnell. Hello, good to see the Iowa people here. So Zoom's always interesting with this. Okay, so I don't see my slides, but I think you can see my slides. I see my face, but let's see if this will work. Okay, yep. It looks good. Okay. All right, so what is DevOps? A really simple way to think about it, a lot of people say it's development and operations. That's DevOps, right? Maybe you think it's kind of merging these two silos that used to be very separate. It's you'd have applications are developed over here, and then they get kind of they become these water balloons that are thrown over the wall to the operations side, and there's no visibility, no cooperation between them. And DevOps is about bringing them closer together. If that's your definition of DevOps, that's pretty good. That's not too bad. But what I'd like to do is try to break that down a little bit and see if we can come up with a better definition, maybe something a little more concise and maybe a little more accurate. And we'll do that by teasing apart the components of this equation, starting with development. In the way back times, development used to be approached kind of like, well, talk about the waterfall model. And here you can see Royce's final form of the waterfall model. It's like a Pokemon. This is the final evolution. And the important thing to notice here is there's a lot going on in terms of planning and design and review and specifications and documentation, all before any code ever gets deployed and put out into operation. So that means it could be weeks or even months before your users are reacting to the stuff you've created, weeks or months before you're getting feedback from them, before you find out whether there are going to be problems in operations, before you find out whether you've got major bugs. So in development land, you're in a calm pool, just kind of taking your time, getting everything done. But as you approach operations, then you're going to fall over the waterfall. Of course, it's called waterfall model because it kind of looks like a waterfall, with the progression of steps here. But I think also because it kind of feels like a waterfall. So that was then. As this was happening in the manufacturing world, we had a Toyota production system and lean manufacturing that were kind of trying to turn all of this batch-oriented processes on their head, moving to more of a stream-oriented world. And so in the early aughts, that started to infect the world of software development, and we called it Agile. I'm going to talk about Agile, but I'm really talking about Agile-ish. And what I mean is there are lots of really kind of formal ways to approach Agile with their own capitalized names and structures and ceremonies and so on. And I'm talking about things like Scrum and Kanban and Scrumban and whatever you want to get into. Those are interesting, and I would encourage you to look into them. But it's not so much about those specific disciplines, and it's more about some kind of general philosophical things. So instead of batching up all your changes over weeks and months and then releasing them all at once, this is more about an iterative process. You're picking out small units of change. They say that kind of the smallest deliverable increment of value. You try to make small changes and get those delivered quickly, as quickly as possible. And because you start getting feedback sooner, it's better collaboration when you're able to start showing these changes in progress to your users. And it's a continuous cycle, so you've planned a change, designed it, developed it, you have maybe automated testing in place, and then you release that, launch it out, maybe you've deployed the feature and now you enable the feature and you're right on working on the next set of features again. So in this kind of an environment, you're taking advantage of tools like version control, say Git, for example, automated testing, maybe using a tool like Jenkins or GitLab CI to automatically test whenever you make changes, and even automated code analysis. Have you introduced vulnerabilities into your code? because of the way you've written the changes? Are you using dependencies that introduce vulnerabilities, certain libraries or packages? So that's kind of the DevSecOps world. And throughout all of this, you're fighting fragility. You could say if something hurts, do it more, because that's how you start addressing the pain. You know, that's how you kind of force yourself to fix the pain. And deployment is one of those things. If deploy hard, it means you need to be deploying more often, because that's when you'll make it easier. All right, so that's the development side of DevOps. When we talk about development, we're really talking about agile inspired development, that agile philosophy. What about the operations side? Well, when we're talking about operations in this context, we're really talking about infrastructure. You know, we've got networks, network infrastructure, servers, your data center infrastructure, the operating systems, the applications on top of that, how those are configured. So it used to be, you know, you want a database server, you're placing an order with one of the big hardware vendors, and you're waiting weeks, sometimes months. I've been there for that hardware to show up. If you're installing software, maybe you're doing that manually, running the commands at the command line, or clicking through a wizard, the next finish experience. That was then. Now we see infrastructure is really programmable. If you want a database server, it might just be a block of Terraform code like this. And if you want to deploy a web server, you might just be starting from a Docker container, layering on your own content on top of that. So these are things that take seconds or minutes, not weeks or months. So programmable infrastructure really changes the way we do things. And in fact, kind of up and down the stack, your infrastructure can be represented as code. So we can go back to VMware. It certainly wasn't the first virtualization product, but maybe one of the most well-known, where your servers became you know, a VMDK file with some metadata through to AWS, kind of the first big cloud, public cloud infrastructure, to now Kubernetes, and Terraform, and certainly lots of other tools. So again, you get to leverage the same features we see, you know, in agile software development with your infrastructure, representing it as code and version control with automated testing, code analysis, and again, fighting fragility. So when we talk about operations in the DevOps context, we're talking about infrastructure, and specifically programmable infrastructure. So pull this all together, and what does that mean? Well, now the continuous cycle that we saw in the agile software development world now can be applied to your infrastructure, and we can close the loop. So instead of two worlds that live apart, development and operations, we have continuous integration where your changes are continually being tested and deployed and delivered out to your users with tighter feedback loops and more opportunities to catch problems before they get rolled out into production. So if there's one crisp, short definition of DevOps I would offer, it's this: that DevOps is agile infrastructure. It's the lessons of agile software development applied to programmable infrastructure. And all the benefits that that entails. Shorter time to deliver changes out to users, better feedback from users, and more reliable systems, more predictable deployments, and less pain. So instead of a duck going over a waterfall, you can have lots of ducks in motion, and each of those is a safe, small incremental change. There we go. That was DevOps in I don't know how many minutes. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. I swear maybe occasionally I'll start tweeting someday, but I'd love to connect with all of you, and I'd love to talk about this stuff. Thanks a lot.
Oh, great. Thanks, Dave. A lot in a lightning bit. Fantastic.